He was enough of a bastard to make something for himself, but he wanted the child to be their own person. It was the sort of thing that came well with the kind of thinking and social graces the princess had.
Married a fucking princess,
Skharr muttered, shaking his head as they came to a halt.
I don't know what fucking seer saw that one coming, but I would have laughed in their faces if they told me.
It had been a tough road. Lots of people had died. A few were by hands that were not his own, although he made sure those hands paid for what they did, which added to the pile of bodies he left behind. Fighting to be released from an executioner's axe had been particularly difficult. But there he was. The Emperor had restored his sister to the royal family. After everything Skharr did to put the crown on the little bastard's head, it was the least he could do. And with that done, it had been simple work to establish Skharr in his own noble house and ally their houses through marriage. A neat bit of politicking, that. He figured there were a few gods who had planned that all out themselves. There weren't a lot of coincidences where his life was involved. Even helping Cassandra with her god problems wasn't coincidental. He grunted, scratching his thick red beard. He'd studied the fortress ahead of him. His eyes were as keen as they'd ever been, but he knew there were tricks to the light that could mean all sorts of problems until he got closer. Horse nickered softly, then tossed his mane and took another bite from the scraggly grass.
I don't like it either.
Skharr checked the sword and axe he was carrying on the saddle. He had a shield there, too, but his attention turned back to the bow, which he took from its hook and strung up.
Men on the ramparts, looks like, but no banner on the pole. Might be they're just lax, but still a worrying sign.
His luck was just the worst. It always had been, and now was not the time to start complaining about his problems. Sure, he seemed to stumble cock first into myriad issues, but he was lucky enough to make it back again. Not a lot of people on the continent could claim the same. Skharr took a deep breath to try to catch the scent of whatever was out there. Nothing stood out. He didn't want to approach the fortress without more knowledge. A few local petty lords resisted having him around, but they generally balked when they saw his ring and the imperial seal he carried. They were loyal subjects of the Empire. Unfortunately, many people in the area were not, and they would be more difficult to deal with.
Easier, actually,
Skharr muttered. He was done stringing his bow and kept it in hand, as well as a couple of arrows from his quiver.
For me, more natural to how I tend to handle these people.
There were soldiers on the ramparts, and they'd spotted him.
What do you think?
Skharr asked, tilting his head.
Those look like longbows, but not particularly good quality. I'd say 100, 150 paces. My paces, not theirs.
That was about as far as those bows could shoot. Another question was whether the guards on the ramparts could shoot them from that far away with any accuracy. Still, until he saw what they could do, he would keep his distance. Thankfully, they had marked off the territory well enough for him. All the trees, underbrush, and larger boulders had been cleared out to about 200 paces from the dry moat. The road had been cleared of brush and greenery, and recently, too. The men on the walls had seen him coming for a while and debated whether they should contest his approach. His dress wasn't that of a beggar, though. They could probably see his weapons as well as theirs. They would have to send riders out if they wanted to contest him before he came into the range of their bows. They probably didn't want to risk it.
"Who goes there?"
one of the guards called, cupping his mouth in his hands to send his voice out farther.
"Stop your advance now, or you will be—"
He stopped when one of his men said something Skharr didn't quite catch. A short conversation between them followed, too quiet for him to hear.
"I will be what?"
Skharr roared back, nodding his head for Horse to follow him as he continued his approach. He still had 50 or 60 paces before he was in range of their arrows.
"You'll have to speak up."
"Shut it! We'll get to you in a moment. And stop your advance! This instant!"
Skharr grinned.
"Or what? You'll yell at me some more."
They didn't have a decent answer for that, although the archers started drawing arrows from their quivers as the two apparent officers were still discussing what their next move was supposed to be. Skharr